think that's one of the beautiful things about podcasting and the care community is that we're all connected. We're all connected through care. And because I think in the long run, even in all the political BS that's going on these days, care is essential to humanity, care for each other. And I think that's what the caregiving community demonstrates on a whole, that it doesn't make any difference what color you are, what side of the fence you're on, orientation-wise. You just want to care for the person that you love with as less drama as possible. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to do on the network.
Welcome to the AlzAuthors podcast. We're so glad you found us. We're the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience to light the way for others. I'm Marianne Sciucco, a registered nurse, author, and dementia daughter.
And I'm Christy Byrne Yates, a licensed educational psychologist, dementia daughter, ALZ author, and coach focused on the sandwich generation. Please join us for bi-weekly episodes with our authors as we talk about their dementia journeys, sharing intimate details and painfully obtained knowledge to help others currently on that path.
We hope these stories offer you comfort and support as we strive to break the silence and stigma surrounding a dementia diagnosis.
May one of our authors speak to your experience.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hi, I'm Susan of AlzAuthors. When I was a caregiver for my mother with dementia, resources to educate and offer support were hard to come by. AlzAuthors believes in the power of storytelling to support and encourage those impacted by Alzheimer's and dementia. Custom Caregiver Collections is a customized collection of memoirs, novels, caregiver guides, children's books, and more. This collection of well-vetted books comes displayed in a beautifully crafted wooden tabletop bookshelf with AlzAuthors branding. Custom Caregiver Collections supports our goal of bringing real books to real people in real places and are perfectly suited for senior care communities, senior centers, doctors' offices, memory cafes, and professional or personal libraries. If you or your organization is interested in ordering or building a custom caregiver collection, we can guide you through choices of books written in many categories to support your needs. Want to build your own book collection? Contact us at alzauthors.com/CCC to get started.
Hey, Christy, today we have a really special guest coming on the show. It's Chris MacLellan from the Whole Care Network. And he is the man responsible for this podcast. So he's going to get on with us today and tell us all about his new project, which is a streaming radio channel for caregivers. And he's going to tell us all about that and about his Whole Care Network University, which I believe you are involved in.
I am. And I'm really excited to see and talk with Christopher. He is one of my favorite people I have come to meet this past year. I've met so many interesting people, but he's so full of energy and so full of concern and care and great ideas. And he's a great resource for people. And yeah, this Whole Care Network has been a game changer for me. I know it's definitely been such a friend to AlzAuthors and gotten the podcast going and promoting it. So yeah, super ally, and it's just wonderful to be with him.
Yeah, it really is exciting. Chris has an excellent background in social services, and he also has a degree in theology. So it really lends a lot to his just his background and who he is and what kind of a man he is. He's very kind. He's generous. And the podcast, was one door opening for us. And I entered reluctantly, but with his guidance, I managed to succeed at that. But then that also led us to the virtual events that we do. So it added, another whole new dimension to AlzAuthors, thanks to Chris. And now with the new app and the streaming channel, we're going to reach a lot more caregivers. So we're really happy about that.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. And he is, I can see him being someone who really pulls people in and gets them going, because he is a catalyst for sure.
Yes.
That's great.
All right. So enough about that. Let's get started. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the AlzAuthors podcast. How are you today?
Marianne, Christy, it's great to be with both of you today. Goodness, I haven't been on for a while, and you got a new co-host at the same time.
I know.
Off the charts.
It's great to see you, Christopher.
Good to see you too, Christy. I've enjoyed getting to know you and the tremendous work that you're doing. And you're getting up early today out in California. That's all good.
Yeah, thanks. You guys got me out of bed. That was good. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I never had to worry about time zones until I got AlzAuthors. Exactly. I only had to worry about one person in California. And now it's like, where are we and where are they and what time is it? And how do we do this?
You're global. You're big time.
It is. It's right. Huge. It's a huge problem trying to coordinate everybody's schedules with all these time zones.
I'm going to just kind of politely correct you. It's a huge, good problem.
Yeah,
it's a good problem. Yeah, it is. It's a challenge when I'm trying to fit people together, and it's kind of like not going to work out, or people have to get up at like 3 a.m. to be on the podcast.
That's right.
And just think, Marianne, going back all these years when I kept ringing your chimes about, Marianne, you need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast. And after about Christy, maybe it was 3 or 4 calls, then she was in, and now look at what you've created.
Marianne's done a great job with this. This is such a great product. So it was easy for me to kind of slide in. So I need to say thank you, Marianne. You made this very easy for introducing me into podcasting. It was great.
And talk about sliding in. If you haven't listened to the latest episodes of the AlzAuthors, you're going to hear 2 wonderful hosts that have just blended perfectly together. It's like a glove. The 2 of you, it's like you've known each other forever. And it's I just love when these things kind of develop on their own. So very good.
Yeah.
Well,
like minds and like hearts. That's what we are here. We attract only the best people we attract.
Yeah, there's no strangers when it comes to caregiving.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think definitely there's the law of attraction happening, right? Like you attract people that are that you want to be in your life. But yeah, for sure, Christopher, when it comes to caregiving, it's like boundaries sort of fade away, and we all kind of get down to that real heart speak of what's going on. So for sure,
as I like to say, it's the one social issue that brings people together from a diverse mindset. Whether you're gay or straight, black or white, green, yellow, blue. There are some cultural differences in caregiving, but the message is all the same. People want to experience love, care, and commitment, and they need validation, they need resources, they need respite, and who's better to get that from one caregiver to another?
Right. Well said. Well said. Very good.
Okay. So you are the mastermind of many different products for caregivers. The Whole Care Network.
Goodness gracious, St. Ignatius. Yes.
The Whole Care University.
Whole Care WCN University. Yes. That's new this year in 2023 and expanding as we speak. So, goodness.
And now we are embarking on the streaming channel.
Streaming radio has been it's been a goal of mine for a couple of years, and and it finally happened this year, where I bit the bullet and purchased a streaming radio channel. It's been quite a learning curve, but we're ready to do the soft launch of the streaming radio channel at the end of October. I think the day is the 25th of October.
Wow.
I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I think it's Wednesday the 25th, where a real schedule will be available. The app is available now to download on Google Play or the Apple Store.
And what's it called so people can get it?
The Whole Care Network.
The Whole Care Network. That's, you know what? Number one, congratulations. What a huge leap. And you have such vision, and that's amazing. So, and you're going to streamline this for everybody. That's terrific. So Whole Care Network, and we can get that on
Whole Care Network. You can download it now. There's some music that's being played from, this whole network of caregiving. I connected with a wonderful group out of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, a Music Care Room 217, and purchased their music license, which is a lot of instrumentals. There's some vocals, there's tunes that everybody would recognize, but it's that soothing music that we're all looking for. And it's another idea of this collaboration that goes on in the care community. That we can't do this. We can't do this all by ourselves. And when you reach out and talk to people, like-minded people that collaborate, I mean, that's the spirit of how we've always operated on the Whole Care Network. And this streaming radio channel, at least for me, is kind of the missing piece of the puzzle of media per se. And when you think about, the Whole Care Network started out as, it's a podcasting, and we just won, and I'm blaming Marianne for some of those. We just won over 700,000. We're approaching 720,000 downloads of our podcast. And, wow. And especially in the last year and a half, where, the COVID and, has really tuned in. There's my crazy mind working, tuned in, no pun intended, where people have really started to tune into podcast and listening. We've just seen an explosion of listeners of our podcast. And, the part of the puzzle, though, is that while the podcast has so much rich information, so many wonderful stories, we're not seeing the traction on our website as we'd like to see, and we're not seeing the traction on our partners' websites as well. And so, kind of the goal here of the streaming radio and the app is to attract the listeners to listen on our app, which has access to all the landing pages on the Whole Care Network of all of our show hosts. It's got access to the WCNU University. There's just a variety of ways that listeners are going to be able to connect to everybody through our app. And you may not be able to see the sign behind me because I got the lights kind of dim, but I have this concept: if you can dream it, you can do it. And the streaming radio has been a learning curve for me with the music and all that. But I do think, while I understand listeners are going to, they're used to listening to shows on podcast, on Spotify, Apple, all those wonderful platforms. But unfortunately, all those wonderful platforms don't really focus on a particular brand per se. So by listening to your AlzAuthors on the Whole Care Network app, listeners will be able to access your WCN, your landing page. They'll be able to access any courses on WCN University. And, they'll be able to see also other authors that are available on AlzAuthors, because I use this word very, very lightly. There'll be subtle advertising on the app, but those advertisements are going to be relatable to what's being talked about on your particular show for that day. So it's a monumental task that I think we're up for the challenge, and that's why actually through the rest of the year, it's kind of like we're in beta. So, but it's good to go now for everybody to test out. I certainly appreciate any comments or suggestions at wecare@wholecarenetwork.com. But I'm kind of being long-winded, but you can tell I'm pretty excited about where the next stage is going.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot about, the AlzAuthors concept, where we know that our target audience of caregivers has such limits on their time and energy, and to try to sift through all different types of platforms looking for information is just not even possible. So like with our website, your streaming channel will direct people into looking at things that are relevant to them without a lot of extraneous stuff that, they have to wade through or try to get through to find what they're looking for. I think that is the most important thing for the listening audience.
Very much so. And Marianne, I know you know this. I think Christy does too. My background in social work,
right? Mm-hmm.
As one of my first jobs in social work, and that was in 1960s. 1987.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was 67. I was like, what grade was I in? I was 10, but with my background in information and referral and a hotline service, I've always had this vision of critical information and referral. People are looking for that type of information when they're in the midst of an emergency. All my listeners on my podcast have always heard me say, well, have you ever met anyone that has caregiving on their bucket list of things to do in life? Well, no, nobody plans for an emergency.
Right.
And in trying to sort out this information when people are in the midst of a crisis, we want to be able to make it as easily as accessible as possible. But I also know that the best information and referral comes from one caregiver to another, a person that has been in the trenches, that knows the system because they were in an emergency at first too. And that's what we've tried to create on the network, is that sense of it's through story sharing where diversity meets the road, to collaborate on a common cause, to provide that information, to get that trusted referral out so that that especially a new caregiver can find the resources that were available that may not be available to them only because it's a new area for them to search. I mean, I didn't know how to do it when I got involved in this. So
right, and you bring up a great point, and I love that you were involved in information and referral. But when we're in a crisis, we're not in our brain sort of is limited in what it can process. Right, we're in. A lot of our prefrontal cortex is offline, so we're sort of panicked at times. We have to. So trusted resources are really important, and finding time to really do your research or whatever. You might not have time for that, but man, you get onto a program, you listen to something that sparks something in you. You hear about somebody else. You can. It's that trusted referral that you've got people right. that are coming on to this streaming radio that you know are giving good information, and and quality information across a spectrum, right? So not everything's going to apply to everybody, but there's a breadth of information. But wherever it's coming from a source that you know and that you know is quality. And that's one of the things I love about AlzAuthors is, it's not everybody who wrote a book about Alzheimer's or dementia. It's a book that's been fully read cover to cover by someone, and we felt it fit into our desire to share personal stories and quality information for people to be helpful for caregivers. And it's really important to know that that's coming, because when you're in crisis, and like you said, as a caregiver, like, I don't know, I did not take this class in high school or college. So what the heck am I going to do? Right. And then you start asking around. And so it's great to have a friend out there. And so I see that as Whole Care Network, and your streaming radio is that friend who can give you those resources,
Right. And all too, and this is kind of a flippant comment, but it's very true. All too often people are having these critical conversations about advance directives, wishes in the back of an ambulance on the way to an emergency. And, we're for some reason especially in our Western culture, we're reticent to talk about those issues. And for us that have been through it, we understand the struggle it is for people who haven't approached those conversations. And we learn through our experience why it's so important to be able to gently nudge people into feeling comfortable and having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So who else is going to be on the streaming radio?
Well, pretty much all of our podcasters will have a spot on the streaming channel. One of the challenges right now is, everybody has a different schedule. Well, AlzAuthors post, I think, every other Tuesday. Did I nail that without looking at my notes? Tuesday nights. And we've got like the Heart of Hospice. They do every Friday. And then we've got Elizabeth Miller, Happy Healthy Caregiver. She does every other Wednesday. So finding a way to schedule all this has been a challenge, but we're working through some scheduling options that I think will work for everybody, so that everybody's new episode will display on that in and around that day that it populates to their podcast channel. And we'll get into that routine, but for any of your viewers and your listeners out there that are interested in having a spot on WCN streaming radio, I'd be happy to talk to them about it, because this is one of the unique things about the network. While I want to build the next CNN for caregivers, I also know that people in and around broadcasting and podcasting, they need to find their start somewhere. And you can't just go, you can go and buy a spot on a radio channel and they'll put you on at 3 a.m. Many, if not all of the podcasts, especially at the beginning, were new to podcasting. And they've built their brand, kind of like this group called AlzAuthors, with 5,000 downloads of their podcast. It's like pretty impressive. But I'm real big on giving people the opportunity to share their story. And podcasting, radio, it may not be for everybody, but there's a listener out there for everybody's brand.
Yeah.
And it's about giving people an opportunity. And that's really what this is all about. I can't guarantee Joe Rogan downloads, but what I can guarantee is that you're going to have a listener, that you're going to touch a listener that you would never have reached before without this type of media.
Yeah.
And I think as I put my social work hat on, if we can touch one person that's in a crisis, then we're kind of doing what we're all called to do in society, is help each other. And this has been my way of giving back to the caregiving community when I was given the opportunity to share my caregiving, our caregiving story with Richard, because I found validation, I found resources, and I found respite through the caregiving community when I started in 2011, when there was nothing like Twitter, or it was out there, or Facebook, but not to the level that it is today.
Yeah. Christopher, can I ask you, in terms of caregiving, is the streaming radio going to be, and even Whole Care Network, is there sort of a focus mostly on caregiving for aging and ailing people, or do you look at caregiving also in the realm of, say, special needs children and parents supporting their kids throughout their life, and looking at that as also caregiving? Or so just wondering how
it's the whole gambit, right?
Great.
Caregiving there's may not be the right word to use, but there's a misnomer that caregiving is just for about seniors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not true. There's an organization down here in South Florida, the Caregiving Youth Foundation. They specifically talk about teenagers who are in junior high or high school that are caring for their parents, caring for their grandparents, or the main caregiver while they're going to school.
Yes.
One of the other groups that we're very excited to be working with right now is an organization called Coming Home Well.
Beautiful.
They specialize in veterans and caregiving. The veterans that come back from combat, who have life-altering conditions that, for the most part, some of these folks are in their early 20s and 30s that are going to need caregiving for the rest of their lives. And those are, that's a whole different community. As I hope this is a good analogy, is, we've got the dementia caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
That's specifically to AlzAuthors per se, and then the Coming Home Well and the youth. While the concept of caregiving isn't any different with those groups, even though the issues might be a little bit different. It comes back to validation, respite, resources. How do you get those unique care situations the information that they need? And then you think about, I'm thinking about another organization on the network, Hope Loves Company. They specialize in kids, young adults who are taking care of their parents with ALS.
Wonderful.
So those, care is universal. It can be specific, but the concept is all the same. It's those three things: validation, resources, and respite. And how do we get those to them? And then just on a kind of I was on a podcast last week with a gentleman who is, I'm, as a gay man, not that gays don't have kids, but I don't have kids, but I've got 25 nieces and nephews and 40 great nieces and nephews who call me the FU favorite uncle. But
that's great.
I had this fellow reach out to me last week, and I'll just reveal the concept of his podcast was Dadvocates. And he is a father of an autistic child.
Mm. Yeah.
And all the different care issues that go on as it relates to spousal issues, understanding how that interaction happens with families, and how he's identified that, on the dad side of this, how we had a very fun play on words. Well, I said, yeah, because maybe you guys just need to come out of the closet and talk about your care situations a little bit more. And it's just, the humor helped resonate with the seriousness of the problem that, as a father, of an autistic child, how do you relate? How do you care? Right. And he's doing it through talking to other dads and bringing the issue to the forefront. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about podcasting and the care community is that we're all connected. We're all connected through care. And because I think in the long run, even in all the political BS that's going on these days, care is essential to humanity, care for each other. And I think that's what the caregiving community demonstrates on a whole, that it doesn't make any difference what color you are, what side of the fence you're on, orientation-wise. You just want to care for the person that you love with as less drama as possible. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to do on the network.
I think that's so beautiful, and in a climate where it feels like everyone's fractured and frustrated, how wonderful it would be to listen to things where people are talking about those moments of beauty, of kindness, of caregiving that are also hopeful or provide some sort of solace. It's acknowledgement of the pain and acknowledgement of what's going on, and certainly discussing difficult issues at times and heart-wrenching stories. But in every heart-wrenching story, there's also beauty of someone caring. And I think that, like you said, caring is universal, and how nice that we can have a place where we can talk about it and people can hear about it and bring that into their lives on it. We have to feed our brain and our soul the way we have to feed our body with food. So listening to something like caregiving, the Whole Care Network streaming radio would be a way to feed it with that kind of hope and solace, I think.
And the funny thing about that, Christy, is that there's AARP and National Caregiving. They estimate that there's 53 million family caregivers in the United States alone. I actually think that number is low.
Yes.
But when you get into it, and this is another whole universal experience, when all of a sudden you're suddenly thrust into it. It's a unfortunate accident or untimely diagnosis. You're thrust into this, and you think you're the only one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. It's so interesting.
It's so prevalent now. The caregiving conversation is much more prevalent than it's ever been. But still, when you're faced with that diagnosis, or you get that phone call, and your mindset is, what do I do next? Well, we hope that we have the resources for you to find the comfort that you need, because we all need comfort when we get that call or we get that diagnosis. And we all need to know, whether if you're a male or a female, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to find your spot in this, and it's okay to find your role as a caregiver in it. And for some people, it's okay to say no when it's appropriate, but you can't just do that at the snap of your fingers. You've got to find that connection, that area that you feel comfortable with. And I think it's through podcasting where people they hear the stories and they say, I can relate to that. That's exactly how I felt. There's somebody else that understands me. I can talk to that person and not feel judged.
Yeah.
I can leave the baggage at the door. When I was 12 and my parents were so mean to me and now I got to take care of them. Well, you know what? there's somebody else talking about that, and look how they work through that. I mean, my siblings aren't doing this and that, and I said, well, somebody else has gone through that too, and you can find comfort there. And that's what this is really all about, finding comfort.
Right. So the channel is the resources on the channel free, or is there payment, or how does that work?
On WCN on the channel, you just download the app at the App Store or at the Apple. I'm not an Apple person. I'm an Android, so I think it's the Apple Store and Google Play. No, just enjoy listening. There's no charge for the app. Okay. I keep being asked, "Aren't you going to charge for the app?" I said, "Well, this type of information should be free." Now, will there be affiliates? Yeah, there'll be some affiliates. Will there be some advertising? Yes, but it'll all be care related. It's about that trusted information and referral, and it's about giving organizations the opportunity to reach the. I hate using this word when it refers to caregiving, but giving the target market the opportunity to have their product in front of people who need it. If you build it, that old saying from A Field of Dreams, if you build it, you hope they come. Well, we've built this, and we hope people listen, and we hope people access all the resources and any of the affiliates that'll be on, and access one of the areas that's growing exponentially is Whole Care Network University.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Whole Care Network University is I think we're up to 50 courses now, with another 16 in the works. We've got care experts from a variety of different fields. We've got an emergency room doctor who has a course, a nurse practitioner, a number of social workers, and actually for caregivers, what you can do is you can join the village. Caregiving, you can't do it alone, so we created a village, and for $2 a month or $20 a year, you get access to. Right now, we have 4 free courses that are available on Whole Care Network University. Expert commentary. There's a monthly webinar, and I think this group called AlzAuthors is going to be our next monthly webinar. I need to get you that date, but I will. But no, it's an opportunity for caregivers to interact with not only each other but care experts that are on the Whole Care Network University. And I think the other important thing to know is that we don't sell or share anybody's information. You come on to Whole Care Network University, you join one of the courses, or you just look at the free courses. The information that you provide us is very minimal, is secure. We're not these gigantic social media conglomerates that are selling information. We will never ever sell anybody's information on the Whole Care Network. So.
That's great. Wonderful.
And then for people in the care economy who are in the business of care, we've got you're certainly invited on to bring your course to Whole Care Network University. But I'd take a look at our WCN masterminds. We've had 3 this year, and I know there's a couple of more in the works. I think, Christy, you might be involved in one of the masterminds.
I believe I am, and I find it very invigorating. It actually was a game changer for me. I'll tell you this, I had not been aware of the term caregiver economy, even though I was in something or trying to do something, as a consultant, as a coach, as a business person, and I didn't have a name for it. And then bingo, wow, it's the caregiver economy.
It's the caregiver economy.
Yeah. So, and really wonderful minds meeting, and just, lots of energy, and it's great. It's very invigorating.
And these are people like yourself who are solo entrepreneurs, or they're small entities that understand the spirit of collaboration. We don't all provide. There's not one entity out there that can provide every service that a caregiver needs. But as a collaborating spirit, we can. Christy, you have a client, and they. You want to do your best for that client, but there's an issue that's out of your realm of expertise. Well, who are you going to refer that person to? You're going to refer them to the people that are in that spirit of the care economy, that spirit, that those collaborators that you're working with on the masterminds. And that's really kind of the spirit behind that endeavor, is to bring people together that can share their resources and talents and skills, and provide that resource to the person who needs it. It's I look back on this, and I did my master's thesis in 2015, and it was about caregiving stress and the impact in the workplace. And looking for information, and when I was writing this thesis, it's like there was very little. Now this information is exploding, because somewhere along the line, with the term of the care economy, they took a social issue and put a monetary figure to it, and then people who are decision makers, I've friend politely say lawmakers, saw that saw the financial impact, and business leaders saw what the financial impact with caregiving was. And is, and will continue to be.
Yes.
And all of a sudden people started to take notice, because they, unfortunately it had to take a dollar sign to get people to understand the social impact and the financial impact. And then, funny enough, all these top level executives and lawmakers, they started scratching their heads. Well, wait a minute. I'm caring for my wife, or
right.
I'm taking care of my parent. This is what this is all about. Well, I could have had a V8. This is when the decision makers were able to relate this to dollar signs. That's when things started to move in this conversation, to where we're seeing more benefits for caregiving. And I'm a dreamer. I'm hoping in 15, 20 years, I'll still be podcasting, that a lot of this will be non-issue.
Yeah, that is definitely a vision to hold on to. And you're absolutely correct. It's people, again, this becomes universal, right? We all, we may not all have children, but we all had parents, and we may not have had great relationships, but we know that, and we're all going to die. And I mean, there's some common things that are all going to happen. And so, and we all have different illnesses that befall us at different times. Some of us never have anything, but that's rare. But all of it is, when you start to say, oh, wow, it impacts my bottom line, because it does. People are leaving work. People are having to leave work. And people are having to leave work, which is different than many, many years ago, when perhaps families didn't have to have two incomes. Or we didn't have as many single parents having to raise their kids. There are all kinds of factors that are making it much different here in 2023 and beyond that we have to look at. And so it's so great that you're offering this. And yes, so I can't say enough about the masterminds and having really good minds come together to sort of lead that conversation and shape that is great.
Maybe I should tickle Marianne to do a mastermind like I did for her doing a podcast, because it was so successful.
Well, I can certainly talk about that.
Yeah.
2024.
2024. Yeah.
Already
Very
looking at
good.
2024 plans.
It's right around the corner.
It is. Is there anything else that our listeners need to know about your new streaming service, your radio channel?
I would just download it at Google Play or the Apple app and send me any comments, suggestions at wecare@wholecarenetwork.com. And I would encourage all your listeners to sign up for all the caregivers to sign up for WCN University Village there's an affiliate code on AlzAuthors and AlzAuthors Whole Care Network landing page. And that's a fundraiser that we're doing to support AlzAuthors. So
yes, thank you.
And that affiliate code is live and available for as long as you would like it, Marianne. So
thanks.
It's always available.
That's great. And I did download the app and listen to some of the music, and I enjoyed it very much. So, it was easy listening type of.
It's going to be easy listening.
It was good.
But it is definitely a learning curve. It's been fun. That's fun.
Though, taking on big challenges. You don't. Like me, when I was in my 50s, I just wanted to coast. I said, I think I know enough to get through the rest of my life. I don't want to learn new things. And look, here I am doing a podcast.
Oh my gosh.
The author, they wrote a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple of, I have a couple of books I want to get to in 2024. I'd like to put this on automatic pilot going in, but I have some, I've got my Aging Gayfully brand I want to get to. And thankfully, it's like, the analogy with caregiving. Mm-hmm. I've got a team now with Amelia and Kimberly, and they're two very dedicated people that are in the care economy for a variety of reasons, with a personal story as well. But there's folks that are going to be the new leaders.
Yes,
that are coming up.
Indeed.
This old guy has been doing this almost 20 years, and I have no regrets. But it's time for new voices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for visiting the show and for everything you do for AlzAuthors and everything you do for the caregiving economy and community. It's all.
Well, thank you,
priceless. Very good stuff.
You're a charter member of the Whole Care Network, and what's going on in the network could not have happened without your talents and skills. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
I really want to thank you for setting out. For me, I feel like this has been a great conversation to see what you can do when you really have a passion. And I admire how you had this dream and this vision and you made it happen. So fantastic. Great role modeling. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I owe it to my 4 older sisters. Yeah. So I was trained well.
Very good. Well, thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, an AlzAuthors podcast. For more details on this episode, please see the show notes. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to it on whichever platform you use to listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information on AlzAuthors, please visit AlzAuthors.com. While you're there, be sure to browse our online bookstore, where you will find hundreds of carefully vetted books on Alzheimer's and dementia. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please email your thoughts on the podcast to alzauthors@gmail.com. We are a 501c3 charitable organization, totally reliant on donations to do what we do. If our authors' stories move you, please consider contributing to our cause. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony.
Hi, this is Roseanne Corcoran, host of Daughterhood the Podcast and a proud member of AlzAuthors. I wanted to share some exciting news. AlzAuthors has a merchandise store. That's right. Now you can buy t-shirts, sweatshirts, caps, bags, and more in various colors and AlzAuthors logos. You can even customize them for an additional charge. All proceeds from the merchandise store benefit AlzAuthors, so we can continue our mission of not only sharing the web's most comprehensive collection of books and blogs on Alzheimer's disease and dementia, but also support our podcast, Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, where each author shares their personal journey to help you learn and cope with an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis. You can find the store on AlzAuthors.com or in the show notes. Thank you, and remember, you are not alone.